So in the previous session, I think here we got error, right?
Yes.
Okay. This scan is working fine. Also, subster also working fine. Find the ampersand D, comma, this is. So here it is not working. So find function was not enabled in Drupal, right? So we have to use this func. Okay. Here we got 0, right? So let's try by removing quotations here. So now we can see we got the value, right? Hello.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
whenever we are working with macros, so in macros we do not have any numeric or character. Just it is a text value. So we should not give any quotations like this to say this is a character character type. Okay, without giving quotations, it will work fine. Okay.
Sir, we give a double quote to execute that. That is what, sir. For macro
So
variable education, we give double quote.
that is to resolve the macro. Okay. So when like this to resolve macro inside this. Okay. Whenever we are using functions like this, so here we should not use macro. So whenever actually inside the macro, if we give like this, it will just run inside this code, right? So in this we have to resolve our macro value. Means we have to give the double quote. So whenever we are using functions in for the macro variable, so we have to give directly the value without giving the quotations. Okay. When we want to
Okay.
resolve when we want to resolve the macro, we have to give double quotes like this. So next, local and global, right? Local,
Yes.
global. Actually, the when we create a macro, so it will create a space for that macro variable in our class software. Okay. So if we create macro inside this macro, yes, I'm giving the macro name as ABC. If we create a macro variable inside this macro, so this is called as local macro variable because this macro variable will be resolved only for this macro. Outside this macro, it will not be resolved. Okay, I will show you with example. So you can see here. Here I created a macro. The macro name is ABC. Inside this macro, I created a macro variable that is A, right? So when we try to execute this macro, you can see we got the value, right? This is SAS class. Okay. Without executing this macro, if we directly want to resolve that macro variable, percent I'll put. What is the macro name here?
That's one ABC.
So macro variable name.
Ampersand A.
Yeah. If you want to resolve this macro variable A, so you can see here. So it was showing us the warning. Apparent symbolic reference A not resolved because it was unable to resolve the macro outside this macro. Because whenever we are creating a macro variable inside this macro, this belongs to only for this macro only. Okay, it will execute only inside this macro. Outside this macro, if we execute like this, it will not work because here the macro variable space is created for local. Okay, here the macro variable space is created. If we if we give this outside the macro, that is in open code, now this macro was created. This macro space was created in globally. Means it will resolve anywhere in the SAS software. It can be resolved inside the macro. It can be resolved outside the macro. Okay. So now here we created a macro. So if we try to resolve here, you can see here it was resolved. Okay. Any doubts here?
No, sir. That means inside a macro, if you are executing any variable, that you will consider as local. If outside and using percent late, it will be global.
Uh, so how many ways do we create macro variables?
Data sets level,
Yeah,
then
in
using the
in data step
percentage rate.
we in open code we'll create by percentile rate. In data step we'll create calls input x, and in macro we
Yes,
create by here in
percent
parameters,
macro.
right? In parameters
Yes,
in macro, and in SQL we create by into class. Okay,
yes,
all this if we give here like a percentile rate and any parameters and in SQL into class, right? So if you are creating by any of these three inside this macro, creating a macro variable inside this macro, it will not resolve outside. But if we creating macro variable by using data steps, so it was also resolving outside the code. Okay, so let's try by using SQL so you can clearly understand percentile macro. FGH. So here inside the macro only I'm trying to resolve it. So you can see the macro is compiled here. So let's execute this macro FGH. FGH. So after executing this, so you can see here the value was resolved here. So if we try to resolve this macro variable directly by percentile put ampersand AAA, you can see here, do the macro variable resolved here? No, no, right? Because we created macro inside this macro variable inside the macro. So this macro variable space was created in the local level. So it will not resolve as the value in the global level. Okay, outside the code it will not resolve. It will resolve inside this macro. So this macro belongs to only this. This macro variable belongs to only this FGH macro only. Outside this macro, it will not resolve. Okay, SQL is not working. By using percentile let also, it is not working. So now let's try by using parameters. In the parameters, I'm giving the macro variable name. We will give the first name. So macro compiled here. Let's execute this macro. You can see here in the macro variable triple AAA, what is the value? Here, what is the value inside this macro variable?
Observation count.
Yeah, we will get 19. So in the macro variable name, what is the value?
Data set name class.
So you can see these are resolved here. So if you try to resolve outside this macro, percentile and percent name. So you can see here, it was not able to resolve this macro because this macro variable space was created in the local level. So it can resolve only inside this FGH macro only. Outside this macro, it will not able to resolve. Okay.
Yes.
So let's do the call syntax. So here, what is the macro variable name here?
So in your FGH, I mean your FGH.
Macro variable name, not macro name.
Okay. Macro variable name is age.
So in call syntax, the first argument is macro variable name. The second argument is macro variable value.
Value.
Okay.
Okay.
So here the macro variable name is VAL. Okay. Yeah. So it was compiled properly. Let's try to resolve this matter. So in this, what is the value inside this macro?
Is the value of age values.
Age value? Whose age value?
The class data set age value.
So here you can see we given a where statement where name equal to alpha.
Yeah, Alfred. Okay, okay. Alfred value.
We will get only alpha age, that is 14. Okay. Let's try to resolve
Okay.
it outside this macro. So I can see here. So the macro also resolving outside the macro. So macro variable also resolving outside the macro whenever we are creating the macro by using call syntax. Okay. Let's try by using only call input here. Currently. Next. So now what is the macro variable name and what is the value inside that macro variable?
Alfred.
Macro variable name.
Name is BL.
Inside that value.
Alfred.
Yeah. So what Alfred what's resolved here. So you can see the variable created by using calls input and calls input. These variable macro variables also resolving outside the macro, right? So these
Yes.
are so these macro variables are creating space in global level. Okay. And another thing, percentage let name equal to suppose age equal to 20, right? Now, how to resolve this macro variable?
Yes. Percent put and percentage.
Yeah, percentile put and percent age, and the value we will get 20, right? So now this age macro variable was created space in global level. Okay,
Yes.
age equal to 50. So here the macro variable is age. Here also the macro variable is age, and also resolving this macro variable here. So now let's execute this macro. So what do we get? 50, right?
Yes.
So if I am trying to resolve this macro variable age, what value will I get? Do I get this 20 or do I get this 50?
20.
So let's check. So you can see we got the value 50. Yes?
Sir, how that is
Yeah.
local,
I
but
will.
how it comes will be.
So
Yeah.
here we created a macro outside the macro globally. So this macro AG was created globally, right?
Yes.
So here the macro variable AG was created globally. So after creating this macro variable, inside this macro, we given value as 50. So already this macro variable was created in global. It will not create new macro variable again in the local. So it will update this macro variable. Okay. So previously this macro variable value was 20. So now it was updated to 50. Okay. So the macro variable space was created either in local or in global. So if already the macro variable was created in globally, so it will not create again in local level. It will just update the global macro variable.
Okay, sir.
So if you don't want like this, so what we can do means we have to give percentile local and that macro variable that is age.
Hmm.
So I'm again running this and also resolving this. So now the macro variable age value was 20. So here you can see I created this macro executing this. So this macro variable value was 50 here. So inside that macro. So now I am trying to execute this macro variable outside this macro. So now you can see we got the value 20. So it was showing this global which we created global value only. It was not updated here this value because here we given the percentile local. Okay, this percentile local it will just do, it will not update the macro variable that is in global. So it will create again, it will create space for local separately only for this DDD macro. Okay, it will not update the value globally. Okay,
Yes.
and again so now let's execute this macro. So it will resolve BBB macro variable inside this. We have the value. This is SAS macro, right? So if we try to resolve this macro BBB, do it resolve outside this macro? Do we get the value outside the macro?
No.
Because it was created
Local. Locally.
locally, right? So even if if we created this macro locally, if we want to get the value as global, so if we want to create this macro globally, even if we are creating in the inside the macro, so at that conditions we have to give percentile global BBB. So now it will resolve the macro inside and outside the macro. Okay, so you can see here it was also resolved outside the macro
Yes.
because this macro variable was space was created globally because we as we given the condition here percentile global. So by giving this percentile global, it will just create the macro space global level. Okay, this BBB was created in globally. Okay, any doubts here?
No.
So that's all about local and global. Okay, by this we completed macro topics also. So next we have this paper discussion.
Yes.
And I will give the question. So I will create narrator for that. So we have 10 questions for SASL class, right? So I will just copy that all variables, all data that present in SASL class. In the numerator. Yeah. So this is our first data demo. Set SASL.class where age less than 13. And immediately after this, SASL.class where age greater than 14. And after this, I have given if sex equal to male. So what happens here means, so nothing but whenever we are uh, stacking the data sets, how will we give CHK and CHK1, right? So like this we will give. So same like this. Here I am giving two data sets. Okay? For first data set, that is one condition, and for second data set, that is another condition. After this, I have given this if condition. Okay? So now let's do this. So in the first condition, we have where age less than 13. So here, what are the values we have less than 13?
12, 11, and 11, 12. Like
Yeah.
is James Jen.
So these are the
Yes.
subjects, right? We have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 observations.
So yes.
Yeah. After this, we have another condition that is where age greater than 14 from SASR class. So again, we have SASR
Five
class.
records. 5 records.
Greater than 14 means 15 and 16, right?
Yes, yes. 15 is, mm, 16, 1, 15, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5 records.
Yeah. Now, how many observations? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
7, 12.
9, 10, 11, 12. 12 observations. And
Yes.
next we have condition if x equal to n. So here it was subtracted only males from the data set. So now we have 3, 6, 7 observations. Okay, these are the subjects,
Yes.
and this is the same order we will get in this. Okay, you can see we have 7 observations. Let's open data set.
Yes.
James, John, Robert, Thomas, Philip, Ronald, Williams. Okay, you can see here we have same subjects. So this is first question. No doubts here in this question, right?
No.
So this was a simple question. The second question. So here also same. In the set, in the one single set statement, I have given two data sets name. SAS class, SAS class. For the after SAS class, I have given one. and conditions, and the second sample plot I have given another condition. Okay, so we will take this first data set. OBS equal to 5 means
5th observation 20. 1 to 5. 1 to 5.
yeah, we will get 1 to 5, 3, 4, 5. So these all are removed, and this is the alias code. So just leave it. And next we have first OBS equal to 1 and OBS equal to 5. So for this, what do we get observation?
Number 5 is equal to tier B.